What's up, everybody? I am K. Marie.
I am Lou.
I'm Mary.
And we are
Murked in the Midwest.
Hey everybody, this week's episode involves a minor. We just wanted to put a trigger warning over it, simply because even though this case happened 30 years ago, it's still the fact that this person, when they passed away, they were a minor. It is very gruesome, so we just wanted to let you all know, if you can't handle something like this, just go ahead and skip this episode altogether. But we are trying to give you a little bit of a warning before you proceed, because it's pretty bad.
There is also instances of rape reported in this episode, abuse, physical abuse of minors, not just one but multiple minors. Also violence in like a home setting, so domestic abuse as well.
Yeah, so as we've said, guys, full on trigger warning. I'll be honest with you guys, just doing the research on this one, it made me extremely angry. So we wanted to let you guys know, so you can choose. You have a choice. Your voice matters. You can stop listening to it right now.
Have you ever thought that there was a special place in hell reserved for sad, sick individuals?
Natasha, we're talking to you. Can you hear us?
I wish you could come outside. We just wanted to have a conversation.
So today's suspect is Latasha Pulliam. She was born April 11th, 1971 in Chicago, Illinois, to Joseph and Renee. She's known as the female John Wayne Gacy, which is pretty gruesome reading into this case. She had a lot of mental health issues, but the thing about it that stuck out the most is like we did not have a lot of biography information on her. It was just like, bam, this is how she was. This is it.
Yeah, it didn't actually show a lot about her until her actual case happened. So once her case happened, then information started to come to light about her and her home life. Her home life was extreme.
Jacked up.
It was really rough. So she, like you said, her parents were Joseph and Renee, and they were married and they lived with Joseph's mother, and they lived with her up until Latasha was, I think she was like maybe 8 or 9. And while she was living with the grandmother was a very positive influence in Latasha's life. She pretty much was said to be the only positive influence. Her father, Joseph, didn't actually spend a lot of time with her because he was busy working 2 jobs. He was in school trying to better himself and better his family's life situation, and really did do his part, in that way of being a provider for the household, because he did get them to the point where they could move into their own home and all this kind of stuff. The mother, though, Miss Renee was rough. And just so people, before you even get started, I am not making excuses for this woman. If you start reading about her and you're like, oh my God, you guys are like sympathizing with the this suspect.
Not at all.
That is not what it is. But to have real understanding of what has compounded to mold this person into who they were, it is, I think, imperative that you see not just what they did, what they were accused of or convicted of or whatever. You have to really analyze and see where it came from. Now,
you have to know the whole story.
Right. And I'm not saying people who are neglected or abused or whatever are just going to be killers, because that's not the case. There's plenty of people who have rough backgrounds and they come up and they're cool. They better themselves. They use those things that were harmful in the beginning, and they use them to, excel and propel in their life and take it to a whole different place and make it something beautiful out of that mess. But in this situation, I think it was too many bad things, and it just led up to her downfall. But it was said that Latasha's mother would berate her, so verbally abuse her. She would physically abuse her. She would beat her. She had burns on her body. Um, and when Latasha was maybe 3 or 4, she had a little brother who was born. And they said that, I'm doing air quotes here, but he died from SID. Okay. So I don't know if you guys remember. Do you guys remember back in the day everything used to be SID? If a kid couldn't explain it. But now with more technology and better ways to examine little ones, it's a little bit different. Everything ain't SIDS. So I don't know if the mother just was already emotionally messed up and that's why she was abusing Latasha, or if she was angry with Latasha and maybe perceived or thought that the little girl did something to her son. I don't really think that it's likely that Latasha could, because she would have only been she would have been 4 or 5, and what would she know about doing something like that to a sibling?
My mom was just jacked up in the head.
And it said that her mother was abused alcohol, and severely, not just like, oh, mommy's having her nightly wine. Mommy would get slopped, to the point where her husband would come home and uh, just kind of try to get her, like, you need to stop this. It's too much. And they had a tumultuous relationship. And it got to the point that when they had moved into their own home, so this is after Latasha has been abused for years by her mother, berated by her mom. And in fact, it was so bad that there were instances from her in school with the marks that she had on her body, that they started to examine her, because they felt like she was having a hard time in school because of the problems at home. So they did like therapeutic examination, and that's when they determined that she had that low IQ, because they had done several IQ tests on this child. But what I don't understand is, if you see that she got burn marks, she got a difficult childhood. Why are you not removing her?
From that? Yeah.
Just leave her in an abusive environment. But anyway, so those things happened. They moved into their separate home away from her grandmother. And a little bit after that, her grandmother died. So then that was the end of the positive influence. The dad's still working hard, trying to provide and take care of the family. He doesn't have his mom he can rely on anymore. And finally, it gets to the point where Joseph comes home one day and he is like, you know what? This is just damn it. You're beating my child horribly. You're drunk, slopped off your ass, and he moves back to his mother's home. And he tries to, just he separates. He does divorce his wife, and Latasha actually ends up going back and living with her mom. Now I don't know what the mindset is. Maybe because she was abused and she was used to it, and it was a lot different having a stable home with her dad. She just couldn't take it. So then she goes back to her mom. And at this point, at 12 years old, it was the first time that she reported being raped. And she was raped by one of her mom's boyfriends. And nothing was done about it. She was actually put in the hospital because she was extremely devastated, as most people would be, from being raped. But of course, law enforcement, what do you think they did?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Sent her back to her mama.
Sent her back to her mother, where she could get raped again.
It's fucking sick.
It is sick. And it didn't ever say completely like how many times she had been raped by her mother's boyfriends, but I can tell you was enough that she had 2 children from the product of rape from her mother's boyfriend. Now that is the most that I was able to find on her background. Okay, so we have Shenosha Richards, which was a 6-year-old darling little girl. Too sweet. Her picture, she's freaking adorable. She had her little ponytails, but not no ugly one. It was
My
cute
mama,
little-
it was not an ugly one.
I don't do ugly
My mama used to
ponytails.
try and do ponytails in my head. They never turned out right.
You know what? My dad used to braid my ponytails, but his braids were braids that lasted forever. They were like nuclear proof. You could not. You know how like you would get your hair braided and it fuzz?
Mhm.
No, I don't know what he
Nah,
was doing.
you got every strand.
Every strand was smooth
Tighten up enough.
If nothing else,
Hair
lasted,
at a place.
them braids was staying. So anyway, she was adorable, beloved little girl. And it was said that she was just a friend of everyone. Like everyone that met her was basically like warmed by her little light because she just was so friendly and outgoing, a talkative. I think about like how you see some kids and they say hello and they have the big smile.
Well mannered.
Yep, well mannered, just a beloved little girl. It was said that she was super cute. She liked to sing and dance.
Said she was rapping too.
Yeah, listen, her basically her little tutor and caregiver who would watch her on her evenings after school while her mom was in college said that the little girl could sing and then she could rap, honey. Like she was just like,
She was out here.
she was out here doing her thing, and she loved to play video games. She liked to play Nintendo, and she really enjoyed to like basically like act out the shows that she really enjoyed on television. So she would like mimic them. And it was also said that she just was a light that truly was missed in the community. Her aunt actually said that she just made friends so easily, and that she really was everybody's little girl because they saw her and they just loved her. And she really did believe that one of these people that she befriended was her demise. Okay, so as we said previously, Latasha had been raped multiple times by different boyfriends of her mother, physically abused by them as well, but raped. And products of that rape that happened when at the age of 15, she gave birth to her first child. And then at the age of 17, she gave birth to her second child. Was not able to find the names of these children, was not able to find the names of the men who raped her. However, we do know that she had two separate children from her mom's two separate boyfriends. It's also alleged by Latasha that Dwight Jordan was abusive to her, that he beat her when he would he would drink, and then he would get violent. So so this is just for you guys to decide what you want to believe. Initially, she said one thing, then later on,
Her story has changed multiple times, even more so since the case is closed.
Right,
she's done interviews and stuff where it's like, oh no, this is what, and we'll get into that
because we don't want to get too much away.
Yes, we still want to get into the case,
but I will tell you that she did allege, and this was during the trial, so it's maybe believable. She said that he did beat her while he would drink, and then he would beat her.
Probably.
Well, whatever. We have to actually look at it for what it was. He was predatory. For sure.
For sure, that's facts. Because he was like 47?
47-year-old man dating a
19-year-old.
So she was just legal, and she was living with him, not dating. She was living with him. So this wasn't a brand new relationship.
More than likely, he's known her since, hell, he might be one of the mama's boyfriend, the one that got her pregnant at 17, for all we know.
Never know.
Because that wasn't too far apart.
Right. But I wasn't able, I did try to look into his background. There is hardly any information. It does show that he was a co-defendant and all this kind of stuff. But there is nothing about this man's background. And I don't understand how he can be just white. Because he was a large part in what happened in the story, which we will get to in a minute. But it is actually kind of infuriating that you have this 19-year-old girl, because really at 19, are you really a full adult? Do you really have all of your cognitive thinking and all that together and really know what's going on in the world?
Barely.
You know what's going on, but you ain't got it together much, okay? And so you see her, and it's like she's taking the fall and the rap for everything, but she had a co-defendant.
Yeah.
Like there was somebody else involved in this with her, and there is no information about him. And I guarantee you, if he was dating this little child, this 19-year-old girl, he had done it before, had done it before, had done it before. If he was living with her, he felt comfortable enough that, you know, there had to have been more to him than just this bare minimum information that they're giving.
Exactly.
On March 21st, 1991, Shenosha was playing in her South Side Chicago neighborhood, which is South Vernon Avenue. That's the Woodlawn area. Latasha and her boyfriend, Dwight Jordan, approached her with like a bag of chips or snacks or something like that.
Yeah.
And basically, they were telling her that they were going to take her to a movie, kind of promised her.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Hey.
Yeah.
I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
The original one. Yeah.
Okay. So, it was kind of like a lure. I'm kind of luring you in, baiting you. So, because Shenosha felt like her and Latasha had already a good rapport with each other, and how she wanted her to watch her often because she felt like nobody was watching her, and that she was attentive. That, you know, okay, this woman is safe to go with. You know,
and she had played with her the day before.
Yeah, outside and stuff.
so she's kind of already thinking like, hey, this woman is my friend in a way, and you know, little kids are so impressionable, so it's just like.
And you have to think about it, like Latasha was 19, so you know when you were like a little kid, and you had like the older
cousins
or older
that you just wanted to be friends with.
Yes, because they seem so cool, and like I imagine in a way that might have been a little bit, you know, she like looked like, oh, she's fun, she's
familiar. Yeah. So they got her back to the apartment, and Latasha, she ended up going into the kitchen to do cocaine for about an hour and a half, while
that has changed.
The
time frame. But first it was like half an hour.
First she said 30 minutes.
Yeah,
really
first
did.
she said 30 minutes.
When they finally got her, and they were like, you know what, we know or whatever, she said 30 minutes.
Yes. So she says that she brought Shenosha in, took her into her bedroom, and told her to sit on the bed and watch TV. Then she went to go do her daily dose of coke. So she went to the kitchen. She said she went for 30 minutes, and she came back in the bedroom. And
how much coke are you doing if it takes you 30 minutes?
But the police said in their report that she was very drug crazed. So,
but I imagine that she probably did more after the whole thing that they did.
I don't watch TV. I didn't see. I've never done the Book of Sugar myself, but I feel like this is a quick activity, like a.
I mean, people have. I've seen people do it mid conversation, like it ain't nothing.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Like it's the period to their sentence.
Like imagine 30 minutes of that. You was high as hell. She was on cloud 9,
right? So this part here, I can definitely say it gets extremely graphic. So again, like we already gave you the first trigger warning, but
this is your second one.
And this is where it breaks down. We're trying to ease you into it because
it gets real rough, real fast. This is your lube. This is your last. Your last one.
Literally. Okay, so now that you have your trigger warning, this is where the story breaks down. So, while Latasha was in the kitchen getting her little high on whatever she was on, her boyfriend Dwight and Shenosha were the ones inside the bedroom. So, upon Latasha returning to the bedroom, she noticed that Shenosha was laying on the floor with her pants around her ankles, crying, and the boyfriend was standing there in the back of her, trying to maintain an erection. So when she came in the room, she ended up wetting the hammer end with saliva and inserting it into her vagina, and taking the shoe polish bottle, and it's a weird shoe polish bottle, and inserting it into her anal cavity. And so that went on for several minutes.
So
They say that this horribleness went on for about 10 minutes. But also upon, um, like we said, her story has changed.
Yeah, multiple times.
It is not like we're getting, like, you just have to chalk it up to you're not going to get
The
truth
full
on this
story.
woman.
Yeah. No, it's
Because
kind of
she's not
like the
giving
whole
it.
story with Geraldine and how throughout the whole case she did not speak on anything. She didn't get no details or nothing. Then as soon as the case over, she wouldn't get on Snap and say, well, this is actually what happened. And but that's different from what she had told her family. And so it's like with people like this, even like, you know, the serial killers that we read about, we hear them giving their confession and they give all these details. I feel like a part of them still keeps some stuff to themselves. Like that's part of like how they're able to relive it. You know, that's kind of like their trophy. Especially once you've been caught and you go to jail, you no longer have the actual trophies that you take. And so now the only thing you have is the information
that you missed.
Yep, exactly.
But yeah, so they said 10 minutes. That's
Yeah, the stories kept changing, like you said, up on multiple reports. So you might have the Chicago Times and was saying one thing, and then another group saying another thing. But
and Natasha giving multiple accounts.
Right, and regardless, it shouldn't have happened in the first place. So with that, once it stopped, Shenosha was just crying and extremely upset. She said, "Stop!" You know, she wasn't gonna tell anybody. The only person that she was going to tell was her mom, and I think that angered them the most because regardless, the mom was gonna find out whether she said I wasn't gonna tell anybody or not. Yeah. So they ended up taking a plastic bag and putting it over her head, and it was also an extension cord
wrapped
around her neck. And they strangled her for a few minutes, and then there was also a 2x4 piece of wood that had a nail in it.
Well, remember they said that they strangled her, and Latasha heard, because this was done at another apartment
down the hallway.
Latasha heard a noise at the door, like maybe a knock or a doorbell or something. She got spooked and she put the little girl in the closet. And it's believed, the medical examiner believed that she actually ended up dying from suffocation. So it's not real clear on
if it was a laceration of the heart from the nail in the board.
Yeah, no, it said there was somewhere that after he had pierced her heart, she was still very much alive. That was when, you know, she started, like, it was after that she was more so begging for her life.
And also the crazy part, if you think about it, they had all this time to make better choices. So you did a horrible thing. You raped this little girl because you guys are some freaking disgusting perverts and whatever. You strangled this little girl, but she ain't dead. You shove her in a closet because you hear some noise and you don't want to be caught for doing your horribleness. You come back and you still doing shit.
Yep. And no rest for the wicked.
And so that's where it gets to the board that Keisha was talking about. And what was that board like?
It was just a long, like almost like a 2x4 plank, almost, and cut in half from a source that I was reading, but it had a nail. It was almost like a floorboard type thing. And she was hit with it. And when they hit it, they hit a major artery, but even though they hit that major artery in her heart, she still wasn't dead, like you guys said. So it was just like the poor girl, like, was literally fighting for her life, but you know, she suffocated, which still was more fucked up in itself. Like, you just sitting there with a hole in your heart and you screaming and you got this plastic bag over your head. Like, can you fucking imagine?
To be anybody like that, but to be
a 6-year-old, a tiny little person.
Tiny, yes.
To be 6. And then also the mental like anguish of it, of this person as a 6-year-old, this person that you trusted. You know, you looked up to this girl. You're like, ooh, I want to be your friend. Like, yeah, I want to hang out with you. Please let me come to your house. Like, to be dealing with that along with the physical pain.
And to think about the fact that she left. Like, did the little girl think like, oh, they're done, they're gonna stop now?
Yeah.
No, maybe. And then nope, did they come back?
And they continued on as if nothing had happened. Continued to do
It's just like
awful things to her.
It's like they didn't even care about the little girl. They just did that. But what drives you to that, regardless to her history of how she was abused or anything? I get it. Everybody doesn't pan out so well when they're put into situations like that. You know, sometimes
all deal with stuff different.
yes, and so it's those people that have been, probably touched or raped or whatever by their parents, friends, and something, and they overcame that. Okay, but also it's like you were supposed to be like an advocate for children so they would stay out of harm's way.
Mm-hmm. You would think.
You would think, and especially because the little girl, after reading the reports, you can tell this little girl was just thinking like, "You're my friend.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna protect me," and everything's great. And it's really not. You plotting on the like what possessed you to plot on a little 6-year-old girl, like because you weren't getting that love that you were looking for that you never got.
Mm-hmm.
Like
so then you're upset with this little girl.
You're
who
upset
is love.
Yes, but that goes to show you, like she also said in a report that basically because Shenosha said, "Hey, can you watch me? Because I feel like nobody watches me." She said she felt like her mom, like
it was her mom's fault.
It was her mom's fault.
Yeah, if
but
her mom was around. But she did have someone watching her because it was the tutor that used to watch her, and
but maybe she meant more in a way of like somebody that she could play with. Because that lady was old.
Yeah.
The lady was like in her 60s. And, of course, this one thing, grandmas will watch their kids and they'll play with them and stuff. But it's different when it's a younger person that'll play and really be involved. But to the rest of what was done, because that's not even the end of what was done to this little girl. So they raped her. Well, they kidnapped her. They raped her. They then took her into that separate apartment, strangled, gagged, according to Miss Latasha. She did it. She didn't do it. We don't know. Maybe could have been, whoever. But then, after all of this is done, they dispose of her body in a garbage can and put trash bags on top because they thought that was going to
cover up her body.
Not paying attention to, oh, I have neighbors. They might see something.
Because they know the ass is up.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
It's great because one of the neighbors warned Shenosha's mom about Latasha and told her like, "Hey, you better keep your daughter away from her." And the mom actually did warn Shenosha like, "Stay away from her.
She's no good."
And so for people that have heard your story and they're saying like, "Hey, I would keep my kid away from them," that tells you that you are like a pretty jacked up person.
They already know your motives and know you go send them good.
Okay, so as we've mentioned that, Latasha's story changed over the years. So after the ID show Most Evil, they did a story on the Latasha Poem and Dwight Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And in the interview, Latasha gave her account of what happened, but it differed. It was different from the signed confession that she gave decades before.
Okay.
In the new interview, she stated that she had no intention of luring Shenosha Richards to her home to be killed.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And that she had no idea that her boyfriend, a 50-year-old drunk, was in the house.
Oh.
That they lived in together. She had no idea he was going to be there.
Man, she didn't know a lot.
Also in the new version, she went into the kitchen to get high. Once she heard Shenosha screaming, she tried to help her but blacked out for a while because Dwight became angry and struck her.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait 1 minute. She did not actually have an intention of luring Shenosha back to the apartment. But somehow.
But she lured her back to the apartment.
Oh, but I was going to say, but the little girl walked to the apartment, knocked on the door, and let herself.
No, they was only stopping her to go to the bathroom so that they can then go to the movies to get chips.
So while she was allegedly in this bathroom.
She forgot to go to the bathroom because she went to the kitchen to get high.
Okay, yeah.
She also says her boyfriend was abusive and often threatened her with knives. She did what he told her to do because he was the man. He was the boss.
Okay, girl.
And then also on the day of the murder, she said she mostly assisted Dwight but didn't do the killing.
There are other different types of assistant jobs you can get in the world. Being an assistant in a murder is really not what you should do, man. All of this shit sounds stupid as fuck. Yep. Are you serious?
Yep. And so they had asked her. They was like, "Well, how
you
did
know what? That shows that IQ is low.
Yeah.
You think we're all gonna buy that?
Yeah.
We're
I'm telling you, it's giving Geraldine. Well, we had came to agreement, and she was actually gonna sell me her baby for $2,000. Oh. But I only had half of it because that's what we agreed on. I was putting down a deposit. Oh. And then I was gonna pay the rest later in installments. Mm-hmm. But this heifer came to my house asking for all of it, so I stabbed her 10 times in self-defense and stuffed her body in my closet. Yeah.
I mean, it gets me every time. Y'all, I'm sure when you listen, you be like, this girl don't even know what's going on in the stories. I've heard all of this, and just every time when they say, it's just so shocking.
It's so shocking.
It's so shocking and so stupid.
Yes.
And really, this one, there wasn't very much in this story where I was like, oh, well, her IQ was low, but she didn't really act like so. This one is showing that IQ. Like, ma'am.
The fact that you think now that it's almost 30 years later.
And you could just, why she did it though, probably. He did.
Yep.
He ain't nobody here to argue with me, so it's my story now.
But it's like, now you're saying that he hit you and you blacked out. Did you forget you blacked out when you did the confession?
Wait a minute. You blacked out, but you were able to walk over to another apartment because there was that neighbor that did see that. They saw you.
Well, she blacked out for a little bit, and when she came to, that's when he had told her to do the stuff. Like, he was already doing the shoe polish, and he told her to get the hammer, so she got the hammer. Oh, okay. Then he said, do this, and so she did that.
But wait a minute. Then why did you say you thought the little girl liked it if you wouldn't?
How is it that the first time when you're telling, you say nothing about you heard her screaming? You say you just went in the room, and when you went in the room, you saw her on the floor crying, and he was over there trying to maintain an erection.
Right.
Now, 30 years later, you're like, oh, no, I stopped doing my coke because I heard her screaming.
It's just pain to me.
Like, come on.
Maybe she did one of those little experiences in a yurt, like maybe they got prison yurts. And it opens it up. It opens up those memories.
These memories were, suppressed? Yeah.
Girl,
that's what it was. Girl, we ain't buying it.
Girl. So Latasha was actually caught relatively quickly. The police were on her trail, as she should, because the neighbor had already, Miss Leslie Moon, had already notified the mom as them that the sketchy chick was around your daughter, and I really don't think you should be letting your kid play with her. So the mom, and the neighbor were already on alert, but the neighbor was like kind of like the neighborhood watch. She was on it, watching them, and she had a bird's eye view of their home. So,
shout out to the neighbor.
Thank you, nosy neighbor. So she was like, I saw them, put something in the garbage, and she already had this sketch vibe, so the police didn't have far to go to really even find what they needed. So once they went to her, they found the little girl in the garbage can with the garbage on top. Wow. And they got her.
But when you think about this, like, let's unpack this for a little bit. So what heart do you have to already strangle a child, mutilate them, do all this weird shit, then throw them away as if they a fucking napkin or some shit? Like, I can't wrap my mind around that, and that's the shit that irritates me. And I know I'm the one who picked the case, but it's just like you try to, how they say, get into the criminal's
Uh-uh.
mind. I
Nope.
can't get into your fucking mind. I'm
Not
gonna
that
beat your
one.
ass.
You know what criminals?
Bozo.
You know what criminals I can get into the mind of? The ones that's like, I ain't got shit. Let me go rob a bank. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
those
I can
people like the
understand that.
Enron people and
Like,
like all type of white collar crime, blue collar crime.
And I could actually like, you know what? He ain't had no regulations. He was like, let me see how much money I can steal. How many monies can I steal today?
Mhm.
You know, I can actually understand that. But I'm like, but
There's a line.
there's a line.
You motherfucking crisscross applesauce this motherfucking line here, baby.
Yeah, she did the most. So, so that's the part of how she was actually caught, which was really not much to it because they didn't put much thought into their crimes. So now we are at the point where
This heifer been caught.
she's been
And
caught.
so
Yeah. We got to go to trial.
We in trial.
So we get to trial,
And
and
I'm sorry, correction. These heifers. Because it wasn't just Latasha, it was Dwight punk ass too.
yeah,
So these heifers didn't get
his
caught.
trick ass, pussy ass, pedophile ass. Anywho, so they're in trial. They were tried as co-defendants. So they did try them together. Latasha used her defense attorney used every opportunity that they could to bring in her previous incidents of mental health issues because of the abuse that she had suffered. Tried to bring in her low IQ. Tried to bring in the fact that she used drugs
to
and
excuse
alcohol.
the fact of the monster that she
everything.
was.
Well, really, it was just like all these things caused it. It really wasn't her, but it is like I really don't like when people try to do that. Like, oh, well, it was the drugs and alcohol that made me do it. Well, you chose to do the drugs and alcohol to this level.
Yeah, and here's the thing though, is that defendant said that she gave this statement willingly, full aware of her constitutional rights to remain silent and have assistance of counsel. The ones who searched the crime scene, they recovered Shenosha's shoes, a hammer, the white shoe polish bottle, a triangular piece of wood with a protruding nail.
So all the evidence was wrapped up in a bow.
Yeah,
basically.
like it was there, and then you came with your confession too. So why even try to change it later?
And it's like you confessed to like the most heinous, disgusting crime, man. Like there is no way a reasonable person is going to just sit up there and say, well, yeah, I raped a kid with some objects. And then I strangled them with a bag over their head, and I put them in a trash can, and I hit them with a 2x4, and then I don't really know if they were dead or not, but yeah.
Here's what she did. Here's what she did. Because the medical examiner, they came in.
No, they came with facts.
They came in
because
with facts.
and this is what I was alluding to earlier when I said her story versus what was physically found on that child. I just don't believe her. I think that she's a liar, is a liar, is a liar. Because it just don't match what happened to that child's body, and they were the only two that were there.
The only two. So, Shenosha, the 6-year-old victim, she suffered 42 distinct injuries. She had 2 puncture wounds to her chest, which damaged her lungs and coronary artery. The examiner testified that these wounds were consistent with being struck by a board with a nail. She had 6 lacerations on her head, 3 of which penetrated through to the skull. These were consistent with being hit with a hammer or a board like a 2x4. She had injuries under her chin, which were consistent with ligature strangulation. She had lacerations to the skin of her anus, which was consistent with traumatic penetration or sexual assault. Injuries caused by the penetration were at least 8 inches deep, consistent with the handle of the hammer or the shoe polish bottle. She also had lacerations along her clitoris and on the lower surface of her vagina, extending to her anus, which were consistent with penetration of the hammer or the shoe polish bottle.
I'm just sitting here shaking my head.
And so the defense
called a psychologist, because they wanted to testify that the defendant has a low IQ, and that she's mildly mentally retarded, and that a person with the defendant's degree of mental retardation would be easily influenced by others.
Well, you know what we easily influenced by? They need to just let her out of jail for a day and let us beat the shit out of her. Right. Beat some sense into her ass.
They said that she would not anticipate the consequences of her actions.
Bullshit.
And would have difficulty predicting the outcome of a situation.
Really? 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 We're going to say that that's what a person who's supposed to be a scholar said, that she would have trouble anticipating the consequences of her actions.
Oh, but the state, they had the rebuttal.
Okay, because I'm going to say, then why we hide her? Why we hide her?
Right.
Why did we leave when we thought that somebody was there?
Mm-hmm. When we heard something, why did we stop what we were doing and put her in the closet? Because we didn't want to get caught. Because we knew if we got caught,
you would anticipate your ass is going to jail.
Exactly. The same reason of throwing trash over her body when she's clearing the trash can. Yeah. Because you're covering it up because you know you don't want to get caught. So the state psychologist came in and he said, I don't believe the defendant was mentally retarded. He also testified that he thinks the defendant faked mental illness during his examination of her. Mm-hmm. And further said that she likely did so during the 1994 examination as well.
So the way that they said that was because the way they scored it, one number went up while the other one remained the same. And so she was doing things to throw off the test.
Yep. And so he's like, she was faking it.
Outsmarting the system.
Trying to.
You trying to outsmart it when they
Let me stop. You ever notice people are only geniuses when it benefits them?
Right, because every other time she just can't figure out nothing apparently.
Nothing. So, the jury did find her
to be a liar. Guilty and a liar. Yep.
Of first-degree murder.
Yep.
2 counts of aggravated criminal sexual assault.
Yes.
And 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping. They found her eligible for the death sentence on 2 grounds. One, that she committed the murder in the course of other felonies, meaning, she did aggravated criminal sexual assault and aggravated kidnapping. Mm-hmm. And also because the victim was under the age of 12 and her death resulted specifically from exceptional brutality and heinous behavior indicative of wanton cruelty. So those were the 2 statutes or 2 grounds.
They didn't get her for no drugs, though. How come we didn't put the drugs on there? They didn't put people in jail for life for freaking moral walkers.
Qualified her for the death sentence. These 2 grounds that Shenosha was under the age of 12 and her death was caused by cruelty, like unquestioned cruelty.
Good.
And that she had multiple felonies while she committed the murder. Okay. So not only the murder, but sexual assault and kidnapping.
Good.
So that's what qualified her for the death sentence.
I still want the drugs. See, I'm mean-spirited.
I want the endangerment of what's that?
Endangerment of damn drugs on there. Look at El Chapo. His ass ain't never getting out. She had to have a lot of coke in that house to be doing it for 30 minutes. That's all I'm saying. So, I mean, they could have put that on there. They could have put on there that, she actually brought the child to a situation where she knew the child was going to be harmed too. Because you kidnapped her with the intent of harming. Like, I feel like there's so many other things they could have added to that.
Yeah.
What?
So in the second stage of the sentencing hearing, state offered evidence, to say aggravation or whatever. And so an employee of the Department of Children and Family Services came and testified that the defendant had been frequently placed with state facilities when she was young, but would also often run away. Mm-hmm. Testified that on one occasion, the defendant and another girl who was under state care ran away. And while they were gone, the defendant, Latasha, physically forced the girl to submit to oral, anal, and vaginal sex performed by one of her former boyfriends.
What?
Mm-mm. That she was also...
She
also forced the girl to perform oral sex on herself.
Like on Latasha, she forced the girl to give her
I would
oral
have bit
sex.
the shit out of her fucking clit. I would have ripped that bitch off.
Yep, this is when they just started throwing all of her dirt in. They said that the defendant's daughter was twice hospitalized, once for injuries that was consistent with physical abuse, one that was consistent with both physical and sexual abuse. They offer as evidence that while she was incarcerated, she sexually assaulted an inmate.
Mm-hmm. Now that one I told y'all about. Yeah.
Yep. And then to show the defendant's lack of remorse, they presented evidence that the defendant described to another inmate in great detail her sexual assault and murder of Shenosha.
Oh, but 30 years later, I just didn't do it. I had nothing to do with it. I don't know. I don't know.
He made me do it.
It wasn't me.
He made me do it.
And that's why I actually said, so this was off recording. I truly believe she is not a type of person. I think she got exactly what she deserved. I don't think that she is the type of person who can be rehabilitated because she clearly takes joy in the torture and heinous crimes she has committed.
Yeah.
She wouldn't get any better. I mean, I don't think that there's any coming back.
Oh, and for those wondering, she didn't actually get the death penalty. It was withdrawn.
Damn, Quinn.
But she is still in jail.
Where she should be until she dies.
Until she rolls over.
She better not try no escape that spider escape like that dude.
That's not funny, but it's funny.
I feel like just giving her electric chair would be doing her favor.
I think it would be better if we could do rounds of ass whooping. Can we do rounds of ass like Fight Club in the jail?
Like judge, I would like the take her out back and beat her ass.
No, did y'all ever watch Sons of Anarchy? Sons of Anarchy, they're my favorite character. Well, one of my favorite characters on Sons of Anarchy was Opie, and y'all all know if you watch Sons of Anarchy, you know how Opie died, and it was basically.
Wait, I didn't watch it.
You gonna watch it?
Me.
Okay.
I'm gonna watch it though.
Okay, I'm just saying spoiler alert for whoever ain't watched it because I'm about to tell all the shit. So, anyways, Opie actually died in a jail fight. So he took one for the team for the club, the biker gang club, Sons of Anarchy, and he was beat to death. But I feel like they shouldn't beat her to death. They should beat her within inches of her life.
Yeah,
and then let her go get some medical help. And then they could do round 2 of Fight Club. And then after they bring her back.
And just keep doing it.
And keep doing it for a while. Fight.
Endless cycle.
Closing time.
Time for you to spend the rest of your days in jail. Bye, Latasha.
Bitch. So this concludes the case of Shenosha Richards and Latasha Pulliam. It's very sad and unfortunate what happened to her. She was such a precious little soul, and her life was taken way too soon over envy. So, if you have any case suggestions for us, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. You can also email us at markedinthemidwest@gmail.com. Same way it's spelled as the titles you see on our social medias. We take constructive criticism. We like feedback. We want to know what you would like to see, what you would like to hear from us. We are a growing podcast, so we're just rolling with the punches right now. So just let us know. Just a little bit of a disclaimer. We are getting case suggestions in. Understand that these need to be actual cases. We're not detectives, and we can help you look into things, but we don't have that experience, like most normal detectives do. But
and it's not to say that we won't, talk about a case that isn't solved.
Yeah, because honestly, I think that it is podcasts like these that plays a part in it. Because it's that whole fresh eyes on it, seeing something that somebody else didn't say. Because like we said, we present the information that's out there for anybody to find, but it's our opinions and our feedback that may not, may get somebody else thinking.
Or getting people to hear about it that've never heard about it, and maybe they might have information that way, or know someone that may have information.
Exactly.
You just never know. More ears, more eyes, more openness. It all helps.
Absolutely. So yeah, please make sure to reach out to us. We love hearing from you guys. Also stay tuned. We do have another giveaway coming up soon. So just, be ready for that. We got some big stuff coming from y'all.
Oh, and the questions on the end of...
Yes. Then at the end of every episode, on the whatever app you're using, Spotify, there's questions like, what did you think of this episode? Please let us know.
Shout out.
As Kay said, if you got a shout out, if you got constructive criticism, feedback, if you just want to tell us that you really love this one, or I really like the title of this one, whatever it is, we want to hear from you guys. So
stay golden, pony boys.
Bye.
Bye.